in reviving travel in the region. President Trump's former campaign chairman has been released from a Pennsylvania prison to home confinement in Virginia over fears of the coronavirus. Paul Manafort was serving a 7.5-year sentence for his conviction on financial crimes and illegal lobbying. Manafort's attorney says the 71-year-old does not have the virus but is at risk because of other medical conditions. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Mark Crumpton. This is Bloomberg. David?
Thank you so much, Mark. Well, Fed Chair Jay Powell this morning said that he thinks that there may have to be more fiscal stimulus. We're going to talk with a member of the Senate Banking Committee. She is Senator Tina Smith of the state of Minnesota. That's coming up next on Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on radio.
This probably wasn't what you expected.
Deaths from the...
Just this wall and that one to do, Dave, and then we're done. Whoop! Oh, no!
Hello, Steve the Sparky.
Pass us that roof tile, Chris.
Yep, sure. I'll be fun.
Oh, no.
Saved by the gutter!
Built to rough it with contractors. Samsung Rugged Devices. Easy to use, hard to break. Explore the Samsung Rugged range.
For more than 20 years, Asda supported our communities. We've raised over £23 million for Fair Share and the Trussell Trust. And recently, we've donated supplies to frontline NHS workers and carers. We've always been proud to serve those around us. Visit asda.com/creating change for better. Asda, we're all in this together.
Where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care. About each other. About our planet. About creating a better world for everyone and becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
TSB believe in people helping people. That's why they've created TSB Smart Agent, a new secure way for TSB to answer your personal and business banking questions online. Find out more at tsb.co.uk. Automated service available 24/7. TSB partners available 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday.
This is important information from the government about getting tested for coronavirus. You will be able to have a test if you have symptoms and you fall into any of the following categories: essential workers doing vital jobs to keep the country going, people whose work can't be done from home, for example construction workers or delivery drivers, and people aged 65 and over. If you are in any of these groups and anyone else in your household has symptoms, they can also get tested. To find out how to get a test, go to gov.uk/coronavirus. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
With the NHL season temporarily on ice, now is a good time to catch up on past games.
Bergeron, he scores!
With game replay on TuneIn, you can listen to every power play, slap shot, and goal of the 2019-2020 season so far.
Suter to Cunnin to Fiala, he scores!
And for a limited time, it's free for hockey fans everywhere. Search Classic Game Replays to start listening. Behind the highlight reels, championship rings, and colossal paychecks, there are sports stories that fuel, deepen, and even challenge our love for the game. For true tales of underdogs, anti-heroes, and game-changing innovators, explore a sports documentary on TuneIn, like Sports Wars, telling the origin stories of classic rivalries, Raise Sports, about the concussion crisis that threatens football's future, and Dunkumentaries, a podcast devoted to the beauty and power of the slam dunk. For these and more, search sports documentaries on TuneIn. Get your MLB fix with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Fill your seventh inning stretch with the Ringer MLB Show.
I just can't get over it. It's like, oh, well, Jeter Downs didn't realize he was a top. Like, my dad is drinking the Kool-Aid on this. He's like,
of course.
Mookie was going to leave. I'm like, What do you mean? You don't know that.
Slide into second with the Starting Nine podcast.
Nolan Arenado slides right into the top spot for favorite baseball player. Active in the league right now. It is a pleasure to be sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is we've been waiting a long time for this. We actually, in terms of like active
Round the Bases with the Statcast podcast.
Ways of going about it. I picked third, so in some ways it made it easier for me. Mike, just to go over the first couple of picks. Mike took Barry Bonds, who I think was kind of the obvious guy to take number one. Not only
catch these and more MLB podcasts right here on TuneIn.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
To help make the most of your time at home, TuneIn is sharing our top activities for social distancing. Tip 3, have a game night. In fact, why not make it a game day? Whether you're quarantined with kids or roommates, nothing passes the time like a game of cards, Pictionary, charades, dominoes, or Never Have I Ever. If you've got the hardware, break out the video game console and enjoy hours of guilt-free gaming. For more indoor inspiration, search Listen From Home on TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
The Trump administration is saying that we have all the testing that we need and that we are at around 300,000+ tests a day in this country. But the goal is to get to, they say their goal is to get to over 1 million tests a day in June, and that's not even barely a month away. So until we have those tests so that we can test people, we can trace the folks that they've been in touch with, we can quarantine those folks, we're going to be in the situation of kind of quarantining many of us because we can't be more surgical in the way that we're approaching it.
Clearly, the economy needs an awful lot of help, as Jay Powell said today. At the same time, at some point, do we need to be a little concerned about how we're going to pay for all this? I mean, we had $3 trillion already appropriated. Now we're talking about another $3 trillion potentially. Is there sort of going to weigh on us in a different way?
Well, I get asked this question all the time back home in Minnesota. People are wondering, what we do about this. But here's something I think that we have to keep in mind here is that the federal government is in a unique position of both being at the scale that we need right now, but also having the potential and the power to borrow money and therefore provide the kind of stimulus to the economy that we are really, really going to need. So the cost of not taking action right now seem to me to be so much greater than the cost of worrying about a deficit and then holding back. I do not believe that 5-10 years from now, people are going to look back at what we did in Congress and say, oh, you did too much. I just do not believe that. And many of us have been looking at the lessons of the last really great economic catastrophe, big economic catastrophe in our country, the Great Depression. And we watched as policymakers sort of dithered as the Great Depression came upon us. And that their lack of decisive action early on, when Hoover was still president, put us in the situation that caused us to be so much deeper into the trough, and it took us so much longer to get out. We can learn from that experience, and we can seize the moment to be aggressive. And these are things that we need to do. Think about the power, for example, if the United States were to marshal a massive public service effort like we did in the Great Depression, and we found people who want to make a contribution, who want to work, and they then are out there helping us to do the contact tracing that we're going to need hundreds of thousands of people to do. A national service program would be one example of the kind of big, bold, forward-looking effort that we need to make. And here's another one that is near and dear to my heart. At the end of the Great Depression, or in the Great Depression, we said that every single household in this country ought to be able to turn on the lights and have the power go on. And out of that grew our effort at rural electrification. we could also, as a stimulus measure and also as a future economic competitiveness measure, do the same kind of thing when it comes to expanding broadband, high-speed internet access to everybody in this country. And to me, that's the kind of bold thinking that we should be making right now, even as we are also doing everything we can to rescue states and communities and individuals from this economic crisis.
Senator, really appreciate your being with us. Always good to have you with us. That is Senator Tina Smith of the state of Minnesota. Coming up next, a special election out in California. We're going to be joined by our colleague Greg Giroux for the results. That's coming up on Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on radio.
In these times of loss and crisis, the people you trust to ask the questions you need answered become even more vital.
Should the president, though, impose the Defense Production Act?
Carol Masser and Jason Kelly.
Help us understand what we know so far.
Bloomberg Business Week.
They are on the front line of the impact of the coronavirus.
Weekday afternoons at 2 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba, please be done. Over and over and over and over and over. Then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
25 years ago, NJIT graduate Dick Sweeney co-founded Keurig Green Mountain, a company whose incredible innovations changed the way the world brews a cup of coffee. Today, he lectures widely on business leadership and is a strong advocate for NJIT's work to combine business education with the power of STEM.
NJIT is definitely fostering the innovative thinking for budding entrepreneurs simply because that's the world we live in. NJIT is producing students that have been trained, educated, and given the business acumen to be a contributor to a company. The distinct mission is to develop great STEM scholars. The attributes I've always looked for in team members are heart, smarts, guts, and luck. So we want people with passion, intelligence, courage, and never discount luck. The student coming out of NJIT has experienced all of that.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Welcome back to Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. I'm David Weston. We had two special elections for congressional seats yesterday. One was in Wisconsin, the other in California. In Wisconsin, a conservative won rather handily in a Republican district. In California, it looks like the Republican may actually flip a district that had been held by a Democrat. And to take us all through it, we're going to welcome now Greg Giroux from Bloomberg Government. Greg, thanks for being here. Why don't you start with California, because that may have been the switch.
That's right. Republican Mike Garcia is in well positioned to flip a district that was formerly held by Katie Hill, who resigned last November. This is a district in Southern California that had a Republican orientation for decades, but it's been trending Democratic and voted for Hillary Clinton over President Trump in the 2016 election. The special election has not been called for Mike Garcia, but he has an advantage of about 12 percentage points and 17,000 votes. That's going to be very hard for Democrat Christy Smith to overcome. We don't know how many ballots are outstanding, but that's a big margin. It looks like Garcia is going to win that election and flip a Democratic-held seat in California for the first time for Republicans in more than 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, California we don't think of as a particularly red state or purple, much less. Was this a surprise to you, Greg?
It would have been a surprise maybe about 2 months ago, I think, when the campaign began in earnest, because the district has been trending Democratic. It does vote for Democratic candidates, at least it did in 2016 and 2018. But Garcia's advantages came into focus days before the election. We had the advantage of being able to track the many votes by mail that were coming in, which people were submitting them. and Republicans were outperforming Democrats in the ballots that were being submitted early. And so we expected Garcia to have a lead in the early count. I think the margin of his lead is quite a surprise. That's, I think, one thing that kind of stands out. It's the first time since 2011 that Republicans have captured a Democratic-held congressional district in a special election if Garcia's lead holds up. So we saw more votes, more ballots returned from older voters and white voters. And in Wisconsin, I'm sorry, Tom Tiffany, Republican state senator, easily won a very strongly conservative district in northwestern Wisconsin that Sean Duffy had vacated. That outcome was not a surprise.
So, Greg, how did the voters vote in both of these elections? Because there's a lot of concern about going to polling places. How much of it was absentee? How much was mail-in? How did they vote?
Well, in both elections, most of the votes were cast by mail. There was some limited in-person voting in California, but not that much. Virtually all of the ballots were cast by mail, and so these were, I think, popularly seen as kind of a dress rehearsal, if you want to say, for expanded mail-in voting that we could have in the November election.
Were these elections, in your judgment, anything of a dress rehearsal for how the election may go more broadly in the Congress? Because it was thought that perhaps questions about President Trump's handling of this pandemic might actually disfavor Republican candidates. Does this perhaps put a lie to that?
I don't know if we can extrapolate much from special election results from Tuesday. The result in Wisconsin kind of mirrored the results of the 2016 presidential election in that district. Tom Tiffany, the Republican, won by about 15 percentage points or so. The California election is a bit more surprising in the result. I think it does show that there's really no advantage for either party, and certainly not for Democrats in voting by mail, as the president previously asserted. One lesson this does teach us for November, particularly if it is a close election, is that media outlets and politicians need to be more careful in this election about projecting results and declaring winners until when we have a lot more voting by mail with ballots that take more time to count and verify. And we need to be prepared for the possibility in November of a longer, possibly days-long ballot count.
Okay, thank you so much, Greg. Really appreciate you being with us. That's Greg Giroux of Bloomberg Government. A dress rehearsal, perhaps, for November. Coming up in the second hour of Bloomberg Balance of Power, we'll be over on radio, and we, among other things, are going to talk to yet another person from California. It's Judy Chu, Congresswoman from California. We'll also get a report from MIT on whether warm weather kills the coronavirus. That's coming up on Balance of Power. I'm David Weston.
This is a Bloomberg Pursuits look at luxury. Sotheby's is looking to cash in on two pandemic trends: online buying and nostalgia for Michael Jordan. In March and April, Sotheby's had 32 online sales generating $60.4 million. And now the company is offering an autographed, game-worn pair of Nike sneakers from Jordan's glory days through May 17th, estimated to fetch as much as $150,000. The legendary athlete is hotter than ever following the recent release of The Last Dance, an ESPN documentary series. While one sneakerhead spent almost $500,000 at auction for a pair of Nike's Moon Shoe last year. Other wealthy collectors are snapping up art from online viewing rooms as the pandemic shuttered the physical ones. The volume is nowhere near what it typically is, but with about a third of 236 international galleries not expecting to survive the crisis, online art viewing rooms are helping stave off the bleeding, at least when it comes to established artists. I'm Ed Giroux, Bloomberg Radio.
There are times when you have to go it alone, but these should not be those times.
With a medical crisis, can any other central bank execute?
Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrell.
Walk me through the dynamics that are going to shape the euro in the coming months.
Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern.
Do we have the ability to coordinate with this virus?
On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com.
When things move this quick, do things break?
Bloomberg, the world is listening.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their businesses strategically, yet the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating system, you can. Go boldly toward change with SCI Investment Manager Services.
Determination and operational strength are both essential factors for growth in asset management. I'm Steve Meyer, President and Head of SCI's